Hello everybody, we are back with the third game in our new speedrun series against MX LGS rated 743. He opens up with D4, our first D4 game, and we want to develop. We just bring a knight out, develop towards the center. Can't be bad. As long as your developed piece can't be kicked by E5, disrupting your center, then it should be fine. So white goes E3, threatens nothing, blocks in his own bishop. Hits the center a little bit, fine. We play D5, we seize the center, we put a pawn in the center. White goes knight F3. He develops a piece, that piece helps control the center. Our turn. We go C5. This immediately attacks the center, and when we develop our knight, we get to put it behind the pawn. So it's attacking the center. This is a center-oriented, center-focused move, as opposed to development or king safety, let's say. This just strikes the center, saying if you take me, you lose control over E5, one of the 4 central squares. That's the purpose of the move. Knight D2. He develops a piece towards the center, although my pawn is controlling that, so I don't think it's very effective, but we get to go. We now develop a piece, and that piece attacks the center. Very simple. And already we're better than white. Our center is stronger than his center. That simple. It's that simple. Bishop D3 threatens nothing. Drawback, walks into a potential C4, which would send him home. Now C4 relinquishes the pressure you have in the center, so I don't know if I want to do that. Although it does banish his bishop here, which is super passive. But I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stick to the principles and see what we can do. I'm not going to play queen b6 here and get fancy either. I'm going to do normal stuff. What's a normal stuff? Okay. We're going to develop a piece and pin his knight. This knight is attacking slash defending the center. So by developing this piece, we are affecting the center. He kicks our bishop. Now, you could trade. That would help him develop though. So ideally I would drop back. If he tries to kick me, I don't think that's good for him. His pieces are kind of whack. So I'm just going to drop back, maintain the pin. Now obviously this isn't castling. This isn't center. This isn't development. But when someone attacks your piece, you can't lose the piece, right? I'm starting with lower principles. So he attacks the bishop again. We don't want to sack. We want to move it so we don't lose a piece. And these moves, even though he attacked us, these moves don't help his center. These moves don't help his development. And these moves sure as hell don't help his king safety. So I don't mind putting my bishop here, which controls the center and is a nice development move. So anyway, he moves his knight. This threatens piece trades at best. Drawback, he's moving the same piece again for an unclear advantage. And again, context of the center. This knight is defending these 2 dark squares. The second you move it, you lose pressure on these 2 dark squares. So this square loses a defender. What happens if I take it? He can throw in knight takes knight, intermezzo. And then when I take back, he can take back and I don't win the pawn. That's true. If we take and he takes, I don't see a clear benefit. Okay, so we'll just keep it simple. Center, development, king safety. E6, the most natural, logical move. Controls one of the 4 central squares, prepares development, and prepares king safety. So he removes his bishop from this diagonal and tries to pin this knight. That's the threat. Win the pawn, pressure the knight. Drawback, relinquishes control over this diagonal, aka the center. Center is very important. You might not want to just do that. Okay, but right now we have some stuff hanging, so we probably should address it. It's pinned. We either have to move our rook over or our queen. Which one? I'm thinking the queen here because it's the only move of the 3, you know, rook c8, queen c7, queen b6, that defends and also threatens. And if you can make a good looking forcing move, let's do this. Because now it pressures him to make a decision. And we develop. This move actually attacks the center because it puts even more pressure on d4. So now we have our queen where it is in the French, or sometimes the caro-kann, to attack the dark squares. White defends the bishop to maintain his pin. Not center, not development, not king safety. So, not good, right? We can immediately go a6 and say you have to make a decision. If you take the pawn, he takes back. You can't take right away. a6 takes. It's quite reasonable, but I'm not going to even do that. Instead, I'm going to go bishop d6, development, center, king safety. 3-in-1 has to be a good move. Okay, I take back. I let him take it back. I didn't even know you could do that. How do I propose a take back? Oh, that button. Okay. So anyway, the opponent almost blundered a bishop, but I gave it back to him. So now he takes this pawn. The threat is obvious. I have to recapture with one of my 2 pieces. If I recapture with the queen, it gets it awfully close to his camp. Let's say knight b3 type stuff. I don't see the benefit of getting my queen here other than this pawn hang, on c2. So it could be very promising. However, the queen is currently defending this knight. However, there's just so many things, because if I take this, now his knight's hanging in the center, as well as the c pawn. So that just looks strong. So let's say here and knight b3 attacking my queen. In that position, I would have to, let's say, take. He takes, I take. But then he takes, check. I could move my king up. He takes the rook, and then I would take his knight at the end of that line on b3. But I feel like there's no reason for that, and for the speed run, I feel like just the more natural recapture is bishop. And so you might not have followed everything I just tried to calculate, but I guess I could show it after the game. And this move, I mean, it's forced to recapture, but it also still hits the center. Fine. And my whole idea of not playing a6, the reason I haven't played it when you could have, is because I'm of the opinion I'll just develop my bishop, castle, no more pin. It takes care of itself with natural moves, center, development, castle. So black goes e4. This is definitely a move that attacks the center. Drawback, opens up dark square diagonal. Now I'm threatening to take this with check on this turn. Also, this central pawn is hanging 1,000 ways. So many things to take. It's kind of crazy. But for the sake of this speed run, I'm going to castle. Now the knight is unpinned. My castling threatens knight takes knight. Also, I can take this pawn at any time. Also, I can take this pawn at any time. And there's nothing he could have done to remove all of these threats. That's why going and taking this pawn, if anything, you'll put yourself in a bind, because he moves the king attacks the bishop, so now the queen is stuck defending this bishop, but the queen is needed elsewhere, overloaded. So you don't need to just do that when castling maintains and creates even more threats. So white goes c4, center, not development, not king safety, no threats, huge positional drawbacks. Look at the 4 holes he just created that my pieces can all use if they want. But even bigger is he's hanging full pieces because he didn't pay attention to what castling really does. And what it really does is get out of the pin. Now we're up a piece. Now the centers, even though these pawns are here, they're hanging. The center is completely dominated by black's pieces. Look at this. So he takes our pawn. But now is the time to give this check. We have a crazy amount of piece concentration and open lines and no pawns to stop us. Okay, so he goes here. So what type of mating net can we do? We can throw this in here. That would force something like this. I don't have any checks in that position though. So maybe start here. It's a little scarier for him. Let's bring our queen right into his face. And now the queen coordinates with the knights and the bishop. And the queen has access to the light squares, although this knight currently covers the light squares. However, this is checkmate. So this sets up a mate in 2. And in this, we used center and we used development to launch a an attack on the king. Because his king is weak. Now, if his king was perfectly safe, protected by many pawns and a nice cover, we may not be able to checkmate him. We'll then have to use our strong center and lead in development to maybe win a pawn on the other side of the board. But in this case, his king is so weak, king safety is the most important element in chess because checkmate ends the game. So if your opponent's king is weak, I mean, that's just like a green light, go. Oh, let me not pre-move because he could block with the queen. And this is a check, and we didn't even need these knights because we have the mate with the bishops and the queen. And he has nothing around these squares. The bishop is blocked by its own knight. That's why you want the knight here. And there's a checkmate on the board. I don't know why he's offering a rematch. Can he not tell that I'm not rated 500? But anyway, this was good. A good game. Let's go through it. I want to show you quickly. Development. Center. Center. Development. Development. You can't hang a piece. Don't need a principle to not hang a piece. Can't hang a piece. Center. Development. 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 You have to take back. King safety and development, even over material in this specific situation. Free material, free material. Okay, so just like in the other video, all of my moves, center to development, king safety, and then the game just ended, right? Just from following those basic things, the game ends itself. But there was one thing I wanted to check, but I forgot what it was. It was some crazy line, oh yeah, where he ends up taking my rook after knight b3. Oh yeah, so let's go to analysis board. Okay, so yeah, take him with the, you could take with either piece, but I was curious if I go here and he goes knight b3 and I do take and he takes and I take, now he takes, and then when I take he takes, and when I move my king, this is exactly what I calculated. But now who's better? What's on the board? He's got 2 rooks and 2 bishops. I've got 1 rook and a knight. He has 6 pawns. I have 6 pawns. So he's up in exchange. But I had a feeling that I wasn't worse, which is kind of funny. He's up in exchange and black is slightly better with perfect play. Of course he has to evacuate his bishop because I'm going to take it. And then when you chase it down, it's even game. Because of my piece activity is overwhelming. Meanwhile, everything but his bishop didn't even move. Wow. Yeah, so it's good that my calculation was, my visualization was clear. That's nice. And I'm glad I didn't choose it because I do think my line was more convincing. So that was also good judgment on my part. I really hope that you're enjoying the new concepts. Let me know your feedback. If you're liking the new stuff, submit your rapid games in Discord. Goodbye, guys, and good luck.